Today on JiK Labs, we're talking about worksheets. Worksheets in Microsoft Excel. Let's get started. Now that you have Excel open and ready to go, you're going to see we have our workbook open with just some very basic test and score data that we just threw in here. What we want to talk about today is the worksheets in Excel and what you can do with them. How do you add more? How do you take out more? How do you break some away? So on and so forth. So let's dive right into it. Your file in Microsoft Excel is technically called a workbook. And with your workbooks, you have these tabs, or actually are worksheets within the confines of your workbook. When you open up a new workbook, you get Sheet 1. And we said right up here in A1 that this is Sheet 1, and we've added in our test scores and just a number of tests for some data, just so we're not looking at a blank worksheet. So what you can do on this is we can come in here, right click down where it says Sheet 1, and we can say rename. And we're going to call this test data. And you can rename it and hit enter. And then now you can see that it has been renamed test data. But let's just say we have a whole bunch of data in this screen and we want to do some analysis of it. Well, making the analysis over here on the right side for 10 lines is perfect. But what if you have more data and don't have that room? Well, sometimes you can make a summary sheet or whatever, but that's exactly what we're going to do right now is make a summary sheet. So how do we add a new sheet? Well, see this little plus sign down here? If you hover over it, it says new sheet. So we'll go ahead and click on it. And just like that, it's there. We're going to make this a little bit larger for the purposes of this video. And we can see we've already made a couple. This would default to sheet 2 after you're making one. So once again, we'll right click on this and we're going to say rename. And we're going to call this summary. And go ahead and hit enter. We're going to come up here and call this test data summary. And hit enter. Bold that. Make them a little bit bigger. Beautiful. So we want to look at the average. So average. Now that we have average open, click on test data, select the scores, close out those parentheses, and hit enter. And then we can do, let's say, the sum of test scores. Come in here, and again. And close out those parentheses. There, now we have some data. So what else can we do with these sheets? Now we have test data and summary. And as you can see, they don't work in alphabetical order. But what you can do is we can click on summary. And if you click and hold, you can barely see it. But right between test data and summary, there is a little down arrow. And that tells you where it's located. But if we move it to the left, we can see it jumps to the left of test data. If we let go, we can see that our worksheets have been reordered. Now, if we were to add another sheet, it's going to pop up to the right of the sheet that we're on. So if we click on summary again, it pops up right there to the right. But we don't want those blank sheets. We want test data and summary together. So we'll click on test data and drag it over. Other things that you can do with your worksheets is we want test data. We can right click once again. And from your right click, you can also delete these sheets, which we'll show you right now on sheet 6 because we didn't really want to make that. Right click, delete, and it's gone. Right here, sheet 5, make that a little bit bigger so you could see it. When we deleted 6, it asked us nothing, but right here we're going to say right click, delete, and now that we have some data in that sheet, it's saying, hey, once this is gone, there's no getting it back, and are you sure you want to delete? So if you don't want to delete, you can hit cancel. As we do, we will click delete. And now we're back to summary and test data. So right now, let's right click on summary and we want to make this sheet tab green. So we'll right click, tab color, and the colors pop up and now we see summaries is green. Another thing we want to do is if you want to highlight more than one sheet at a time, you can press and hold control, and then anything we do in, let's say, B13 will show up on both sheets. There it is. Whoops, B13 was our data, so we didn't really want to do that. So we're going to hit Control Z and back that out, and now we can see everything is back to normal. Also with your worksheets, you can hide this data. So let's just say we wanted to send our test data summary to an individual, but we don't want them to see all the work or anything to that effect. There's a couple ways you could go about that. You could just print this to a PDF, or we could just right click on test data and say hide. And now we can see down below, we only see the summary worksheet. Now keep in mind, anybody can come down unless your worksheet is protected, which you can see that video up on the right hand side as well to learn how to protect your worksheets or workbooks. If you were to right click again and say unhide, it's going to bring up a window that says which worksheet do you want to unhide. Click on it and hit OK, and now you can see we have them both back. Well, there's another thing we can do, and we can move or copy these worksheets. So let's right click right now on summary, and we're going to say move or copy. Also, what we can do is we can move it to the end. If we click on that right now, move to end, it's going to jump summary to the end. But you can also click and drag it. But once again, right click, move or copy. And on our summary tab, we're going to create a copy and just click OK, because it says to what's workbook, and it's going to be our workbook for this video, 51 worksheets. We will go ahead and hit OK, and we're going to see that it's copied. This summary worksheet is now summary parentheses number 2, and they are identical. Now you can always come in here and rename it, and if we try to, no, we just want that to be called summary, it's going to say, hey, guess what? You already have a sheet named that, so you can't have two worksheets named the same thing. So keep that in mind. So we're going to call that summary-2. Or we could have left it exactly as it was. One other thing we can do is right click, move or copy again, and we're going to say summary 2, and if we come to the book, we can click the down drop arrow and we can select any workbook that we have open, or we can put it into a new workbook. There are no new sheets. It's going to be a workbook of its own, and we're going to have it called summary 2. We're not going to create a copy because we also want to remove summary 2 from our original workbook. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And as you can see, we now have workbook number 2 opened, and we have summary 2 within that. Now we can see on our average equation, it is not only referencing the test data tab, but it is also referencing our 51 worksheet Excel workbook and referencing the worksheet test data in those cell references. So what to do? Well, we could just leave it exactly the same. So every time you open this file, there will be links to this 51 worksheets workbook. Or if this is just something we're sending, you can just say copy, paste special, values, and now the links are broken, and whomever you email this to won't be linked to the previous workbook. Now let's do right click, move and copy. We're going to take our summary sheet and we're going to make a copy of it this time to a new workbook. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. We're going to bring up book number 3 now, and we're going to leave the links intact. And we're going to come in here and we're going to save this. And we're going to select 51 worksheets -2. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. And what we're going to do is we're going to close these guys for a moment, both of them. Now that we have them closed, we're going to come back into our file folder, and we're going to select 51 worksheets 2. We're just going to open that guy up. As you can see, once we have this open, we have the security warning up top. It's telling us the automatic links of this data has been disabled. Well, why is it disabling data? Because Excel errs on the side of caution and makes you enable the data. So right here on this average, it is not necessarily updating unless you click enable content. Right now we will click enable content, and we want to make that a trusted source. It's going to ask us with a new pop-up, do you want to make us a trusted source? We're going to say sure, because it's our file. We know we are good. There are links. We can either say update or don't update. If you're not certain, we always can say don't update. And if you go up to your data ribbon tab, you can come in here and click edit links, and it will tell you where these items are linking to. right now we're saying we have a source of 51 worksheets, our Excel workbook, which we are very much aware is because we've just made it. But if you see anything in here that is questionable, you can always click break link, and what we're going to do is open the source, and here we have our original workbook with our summary and test data. Now if you wanted to move both sheets or multiple sheets, you can press Control and click on the tabs or on the worksheets rather that you want, right click, move and copy, so on and so forth. Also, if you right click on your worksheet and say insert, it'll also bring up a worksheet, a chart, and some other options for you. So if we were to just click worksheet and click OK, that would be the same thing as hitting the plus on a new sheet. That is a quick rundown of some items you're able to do with your worksheets within your workbook of Microsoft Excel. Just because Excel opens up with one worksheet doesn't mean you can't have multiple in one workbook, and it also doesn't mean that you can't export or move or copy your summary or whatever data you need out of that workbook to a pre-existing workbook or a brand new standalone workbook. Hopefully you found this quick video on Microsoft Worksheets within your workbooks easy, and is going to allow you to more easily navigate and move your data around as you need. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next week. Always be safe. Once you click on something, it is what it is.